Hello everybody, it's the Orphan here, and today I want to talk about something that I don't think a lot of streamers or pro players or content creators really talk about, and that's kind of the art of taking fights in Valorant, right? So a lot of the time people will kind of get things like misconstrued, and really not um, understand what people are talking about when they talk about this specific part of the game. So I kind of want to try and be as concise as possible, right? And really try to be um, super accurate with my information here and make it sort of be easily digestible. So the first thing, right, is what really is like the art of taking a duel in Valorant, and the main sort of art that you need to understand of taking duels is isolating 1v1s, right? So a lot of people think that that just means like finding timings, which is a very important part about taking duels, right? Where you're only gonna have one person on your screen, but that's really not the case, right? So if I go to this angle right here, right? So actually, hold on, let me find a better over here. Yeah, over here, right? So let's pretend that this is the guy that I want to fight, right? And then this guy is his teammate, okay? So realistically, right, I can swing and fight this guy like this, but his teammate is right here to trade me, right? So the key thing of isolating fights is, look, like I can take this fight now and kill this guy, and his teammate is going to have a lot harder of a time trading me, because I can jiggle out, kill that guy, and then unjiggle, so he just can't spam me through the wall. That's really the art of taking fights, right? And it's basically positioning yourself and jiggling and swinging in a way that pretty much denies multiple people being on your screen, right? So as you can see, the closer you are to angles, the harder that's going to be. So, for example, right, if I tuck on this box here and I swing out like this, right, let's say I swing like this, right, boom. But if I'm farther away, no one else on my screen, right? If I'm close, right, it's like super hard, as you can see, right? Whereas if I'm back here, there's a lot more space, a lot more wiggle room to really isolate this fight. So in order to win these fights, you kind of need to have basic ideas, right? So essentially what you need to understand is kind of like when you should commit to a fight and when you should just sort of be sort of poke, right? So when, for example, let's say you're defending on a bomb site, right? And they're actively like running at you, that is when you don't commit to a fight. The reason why is because you basically want to try and stall, right? You want to anchor and stall as much as possible. So you're going to go for shots like this, right? Where you're quickly jiggling and taking gunfights like this. Or you're just jiggling and moving, right? Now, when you're sort of like lurking or like you have a 1v1 fight, that's when you really want to like hard commit, right? When you know that it's not an execute, that's when you want to try and go for a fight and just go for the kill right off the bat, right? As well as on like retakes, when you're retaking, you really want to try and commit to a fight and kill the guy, mainly because you don't want them to be able to jiggle you out, right, and just pretty much stall for time. You want to get it done as fast and quickly as possible. So you really want to, like, hey, if this guy is going to hold you super wide, like on the retake, you need to just swing and kill him. So another part of taking fights is understanding like where your movement comes into play, right? So a big thing people don't really understand is that if you're moving to the left, right, and you counter-strafe, so you hit, so let's say you're hitting your A key and you hit your D key. As soon as you hit your D key, you become accurate for that instance, right? So being able to do this, aka fire a shot off in that window, is super important for like jiggling like this, right? Like if I'm backside and I'm just, that is a super hard like fight for them to kill me off of, right? Because I'm staying mobile and I'm being just a big nuisance, right? So using that is pretty important, right? As well as when you're jiggling, you never want to jiggle and then unjiggle like that. You always want to keep moving like this, right? Because if you don't and you just sort of move out and then unmove like this, you're just swinging, right? Which isn't great. So next, I'm going to teach you guys how to wide swing, right? Now, this isn't necessarily wide swing as more as it is like swinging angles, right? If you want to swing wide, you have to go like super far out, okay? But what I mean is there's acceleration in Valorant. So what you want to do is sort of get like 2 steps from the wall and then swing. That basically what this does is it means that you're hitting the maximum momentum and you're swinging at the fastest possible speed. You'll notice a lot of pro players, right? They'll be like jiggling like this to basically like show their elbow to bait shots. Then they'll back up and then swing. And the reason why they back up is the farther you are away from the angle, the better, right? From this, right? With like just timings and so on. But also, if you back up like this and you get the maximum speed, you're hitting them with a really fast and hard to kill off peak, right? So next, I want to talk about the crouch peak. This is like usually not that good. The reason why it's not that good is because if you crouch peek into 2 players like this, right, you're basically fucked here. You might kill this guy, but you're basically fucked. So usually I would use the crouch peek if you're playing against really good players, right? You need to sort of understand like using a crouch peek against a player with not great crosshair placement is just going to lead you getting headshotted, right? But if you're playing against really good players, like if you're playing in like scrims or something like that, that's when you can really get away with crouch peeking, right? But only sort of throw it around like once or twice. Don't try and like use it for every peak. It's something that you kind of like are like, hey, I'm gonna try and throw this guy off by crouch peeking him. It's never like, oh, I'm gonna like crouch peek every angle type thing, right? It's sort of like a thing to sort of throw into the mix, to sort of pull out of your bag when you know, think the moment's right. So next, one thing that you kind of need to do is do this, right? So it's called slicing the pie, but essentially what you're doing is you're jiggling each angle out so you can isolate fights like this, right? Super good for clearing angles, right, on attack, as well as like clearing angles on retake on defense. Because essentially, like, for example, right, I'm gonna swing out like this. So if I swing out like this and the guy's over here, right? First of all, it's a huge flick. But secondly, right, from his perspective, I'm moving at an angle. You essentially kind of want to be like parallel to your opponent when you swing. So the better you are at doing that and like knowing where someone is, the better, right? So I kind of want to show off like some other things, right? Like, of course, like one thing that you can do is jump spot into a swing, right? So basically you jump spot into a fight. You get the info, you know where the guy is, and then you can basically do like this, right? Personally, this is really good if they're like running up at you, right? So if they're running up on you, you jump spot, you see how close they are, and then you know what angle to swing, right? Because a lot of us have been caught off, right? Where we swing like this, and the guy's like we're swinging a guy who's like right here, right? But then he ends up being right here because he moved, and then we have to hit this flick, right? So jump spotting like that and seeing that guy and being able to identify where he's going is super important. So I'm gonna go all the way over here. It's kind of better to show this off. But basically, like one thing that you can really do, right, is you can practice it like here. Because this is just a scent, right? So you can really practice like jiggling and moving things out. One thing that I think a lot of people misconstrued, right, is sort of swinging with your teammates. So when swinging with your teammates, you have to be super careful to not body block the other person, right? So let's say we know that this guy's posted here, right? And me and my teammate are on this left side. So instead of swinging shoulder to shoulder, one of us has to swing close to the angle, and the other one has to swing farther from the angle. The reason why you do this is to just not fuck anyone up, right? As well as to not get collatted. So basically, like, you and your duo about to swing an angle. One of you has to swing close, like this, right? And the other one has to swing wide. The guy who swings wide is usually going to be the guy who's farther back, and the guy who swings closer is going to be this guy right here, the guy closest to the angle. I mean, you can switch it up, but personally, I think that like this just exposes you to more angles, whereas this guy who's farther back doesn't expose him while he's still swinging wide, right? So another peek that you guys can do, if you have two people, is if you have like a guaranteed 1v1, right? So let's say you know this guy's switch and you're coming out spawn. Basically, like one guy can just do this. Oh, it's bad because there's like a. Okay, we're gonna do it this way, right? Let's say you know this guy's B main. Your teammate can do a normal swing, but you jump across. So the reason why you do that is just throw off that guy's crosshair placement, so it allows your teammate to more easily just kill that guy. Let's see. That's really kind of all of like the peaks and like fights you want to take. You really just want to practice this. The main thing is just learning how to jiggle, right? Because jiggling can really just like win you fights that you usually wouldn't win. And always make sure like you know where to aim, right? Because let me tell you, by jiggling, you're gonna get a lot of kills based off of just your crosshair placement and not actively having to like flick. So, hope you guys enjoyed this quick little video on basically how to take fights here. So I'm gonna kind of show you guys in action
I have the spike.
real quick of kind of what this looks like, right? As you can see, I'm just jiggling. Right. And then backside, I'll show you the same principle. Alright. So, like doing this. Alright, and just jiggling. You know what I'm saying, right? Like, just doing that and moving. It's a lot harder to get shot than just wide swinging every time, right? Like, swinging like this in comparison to that. Also, pre-fires, too. Like, if you know, like, where a guy's playing and you just want to go for it, pre-firing is also very important. So, that's really all I have to, like, tell you guys. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Just the main thing is just make sure your crosshair placement is good. Oh my god, that guy ripped me off. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I was first doing this is how I would practice. Right? I mean, I learned this in CS. Oh my god. So, like, also by doing this, you can get a lot of kills, like, through the sides of walls and so on. You know what I'm saying? Like just doing that, right? Very easy way to just um, get more kills than you would, and especially if you're someone who has good crosshair placement but not great flicks, it's just a lot easier to just get kills, right? And it's a more consistent way of getting kills as well. Like, yeah, flicks look cool, but would you rather, go positive or hit a cool flick? Still, practice your flicks though, but also just practice this, right? Practice moving and shooting in bursts. And yeah, I think if you guys, practice moving and shooting, and things like that, right? Practice your jiggles and stuff. You'll just win a lot more fights, and be more consistent, right? Because that's really the thing of being inconsistent is taking those wide swing fights. Because essentially what you're doing is you're giving the enemy a better chance of trading you by swinging that wide. So if you're swinging really close to an angle and just taking fights like that, um, you'll notice that you'll get traded less. Some players that do this are like less. Um, Osboss does this as well. Nats is a big one to watch. Dapper. Those players all incorporate this into their game, and that's why they seem like very hard to kill and very annoying to play against. So, hope you guys enjoy. Leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.